on that $700 billion bailout or rescue bill, depending on how you look at this. You're looking right now live at the House floor on Capitol Hill as they get ready for that vote. With us right now, Congresswoman Michele Bachmann, Republican member of the Financial Services Committee. She voted against the bill earlier this week. Thank you so much for joining us, Congresswoman. Tell us, how do you plan to vote today?
Hi, Trish. I plan to vote no today. The bill is essentially in its form that it was in on Monday. At its core, it's the same bill. It has very expensive wrapping paper on it, as you know, and it will cost the American taxpayers total this year probably close to $1.3 trillion because we've already spent $600 billion in previous bailouts. This is another $700 billion, and then we have some good measures also included, some tax extender provisions. So there's good and there's bad, but I'll be voting against it because of the fact that, in my opinion, this doesn't answer the underlying problem, which is the credit crunch. The credit crunch is real. There's no question. We need to do that. Congress shouldn't leave D.C. until we address the credit crunch. But I don't believe this is the prescription. Knowing that, this is the only option that's set before us. But this was an option that was put together by President Bush and the Democrats. The Democrats have controlled Congress now for 2 years. This is their answer in the form of a bailout. And I think coming down the road for the next few years, I think we may rue the day when this passed.
You know, there is an absolute freeze in the credit markets right now. It is incredibly difficult for people to get auto loans, for people to get home loans. Banks to lend even to each other. They don't want to lend overnight to each other because they're so fearful that perhaps that other bank may not be there the next day. They may not be able to recoup their losses. Do you think it is essential for the government right now to step in and provide some kind of confidence in the system for everyone, so that everyone, banks, individuals, institutions, companies, can take a deep breath and say everything's going to be okay?
Yeah, you're right, Trish. It is important for the government to be able to step in and provide that level of confidence.
So how do you do that?
We didn't need to get to this point. Secretary Paulson pulled the fire alarm and started shouting "fire, fire" from the top of the roof, and I think helped this process down the road of making people panic. We're now in a free fall state of panic. Okay. We don't need to be here.
Congresswoman, I'm just going to stop you right there because I think, you know, and we've been reporting, of course, on this every day. There was a level of panic going back 2.5 weeks ago. I would say the week after Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy. By that Thursday, before our Charlie Gasparino came on the air and said that the government was working on some kind of program to help everyone, there was such a level of panic in the markets that I had people that had worked on the street for 20 years telling me off air that they were considering putting cash in a safe deposit box. I mean, I think there was, to a certain extent, panic there. How do you recommend we fix this if we don't go about buying all these toxic assets off the bank's balance sheets?
Well, the way that we could fix it is through some SEC rule changes. One would be a prohibition on naked short selling, and then also the mark-to-market rule suspension, which now we're understanding is going to occur. When you have a non-marketable asset, it doesn't make sense to apply that accounting rule. On the FDIC side, the Board of Governors could do what they did back in the S&L crisis when we had 3,000 banks fail and 1,500 banks on a troubled watch list. Today we've had about 15 banks fail. So we can look at the people who have been there, done that, and they were very successful in issuing net asset certificates and also sending letters to their bank affiliates saying, tell your depositors not to worry. We'll be there to make sure that no depositor loses their deposit. I would even be willing to open up a line of credit to the FDIC to insure depositors so that they know that no matter what their deposit is, they'll be safe. Those are de minimis impact on the taxpayer, and those are ways that could truly right this capital crunch. That's what I'm worried about, Trish. I agree with you. The credit crunch is real, but I don't believe that the Democrat solution crafted together with the Bush administration is the answer that will actually reduce the credit crunch. I think you're going to find that Congress is going to have to come back and do other fixes to be able to solve the credit crunch. I don't think this will solve it.
Congressman Bachmann, we're out of time, but we really appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks,
Thank
Trish.
you so much.
Thanks.